Hi and welcome. I hope you got a lot from Amy's talk today, and I'm here to continue the conversation on optimizing your wellness. And I'm going to be talking about your three-dimensional spaces. So let's see if I can run this little machine here. There's a feng shui. You know what? First of all, let me get a little start about who I am, how I got to be here in front of you. Has anybody read either of my books, Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life, or Make a Shift, Change Your Life? These are my two books. I don't claim to be an author like Amy. She's just that well-researched author. I'm a person that just had to get this word out on the healthy home information. And how I got into the feng shui world is way back when. I moved it up to 1990 just because it sounds more current. I'm a landscape architect, and I was asked in 1990-ish to be on a team to develop a hotel in Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. And at the time, it was a property owned by China Airlines. And they said everybody on the team needs to know feng shui. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this feng shui stuff, you know? So I came at it as a desperate designer looking to get a project. I wasn't into being like, oh, I'm going to become a feng shui consultant. I was never interested in laying down my landscape architecture practice and doing something else. I was just motoring along. I need to learn this thing called feng shui to get this project. So I almost came at it as a skeptic, or what do I need to learn? You know, whatever, I'll do what it needs, do what it takes. I started researching, I started practicing it, and then soon I found out, once you move your stuff, it can change your life. So that's the title of the book, Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life, because next thing you know, I'm speaking worldwide about what can happen in your life from moving your stuff in the physical world, the three-dimensional spaces around you that are impacting you. I did want to speak to a question that was asked before the talk here. There are many different styles of feng shui. So feng shui is a method of mindfully arranging your environment so that it supports you. It's like a nutrition guide for your house. But I don't really go about fixing houses. I go about changing your life through the metaphor of your environment. I don't like questions like, I painted my front door red because I heard it's good feng shui. Is it? I don't know, because I don't know what you need to change in your particular life. I don't put my concept of what prosperity means to you. I've actually feng shuied the second largest lottery winner in Canada, and winning that much money disrupted her whole family. So you have to know what you want. You have to be clear what you want. And just like we were talking about with the acupuncturist in Amy's talk earlier, you have to be willing to make a change. I don't force anything on anybody. So if we can get you to be clear on, here's where I am today, and here's where I want to be in my ultimate dream future, now I can bridge the difference with my feng shui suggestions and recommendations. There are many styles of feng shui, just like there are many modalities of healing. So you might have a sore arm and you might go to Amy and she's like doing the shaman thing. You might go to an acupuncturist and they're putting needles, or you might go to a surgeon and they're cutting you. Everybody has their own way of getting to the final answer of optimal health for your arm in that particular example. So there are many styles of feng shui. Some are completely contradicting the other ones. And so if you pick up different books and you're like, I don't even get it. One says east, one says north, what's happening here? It's kind of like you've picked up a Lamborghini guide and a VW guide. You know, it's like they're all cars, but completely different vehicles. So there are many different styles of feng shui, just like many different styles of cars. You have to understand which style you're interested in learning about, and I would say, pick one and go with it. You know, just make sure you just stay in one lane. Don't mismatch, because I think the results you can get are better. The style that I practice, I found, and I've studied many, and the one I wrote about in Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life is the black hat sex style, or BTB style, or Western style, because it is geared towards the already built environment, which most of us cannot pick up our house, move it 3 degrees, and sit it back down, which would be necessary in other styles. So I'm looking for how can I create the already built world to be maximized for you. Okay, does that make sense? So I'm using one particular style of feng shui, and that's what I'll be talking about today. My gift, you know, like if my offering is like, if it doesn't feel right to you, toss it aside, you know, like we'll just keep motoring on. Some things may connect, some things may not. So that's how, a little bit how I got into feng shui. You know, oh my gosh. I don't know how deep I want to go into that. I am very blessed, my life is very fun, and feng shui has truly invigorated me and changed my life. I'm wondering if I'm getting too close to these microphones here. I hear a little feedback. All right, so let's get started now. Amy mentioned earlier the study of epigenetics, and it's the study of the biological mechanism of what turns a gene on and what makes it turn towards a dis-ease. And Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's always the cellular biologist. He's always showing in his biology of belief and all his YouTube videos and things that, you know, he puts the same stem cells in different petri dishes and he adds different things to the petri dish. And because of the change of the environment of what he adds into the petri dish, it makes the stem cells do something different. It is not the DNA, it is the environment that the DNA is in that is causing the change. So he says the two things that come down to dis-ease or genetic changes happening are, number one, your environment, and number two, your perception of the environment. It's like, what? Right? Your perception. Have you ever heard of siblings that grew up and now they're adults, and the one sibling's going, oh my God, our childhood was just horrific, and blah, 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 and the other kid's like, I don't know where you were. It was fine for me. Same environment, different perceptions. So the one that was like, that was horrible, could have a propensity for a disease because of the stress, cortisol shooting, things that were happening due to their perception of the environment. Does that make sense? So we want our environments to feel good to us so that we perceive ourselves as safe, empowered, respected, in a healthy environment. Does that make sense? So, you know, what you eat, where you live, who you interact with, all makes a difference to turn those genes on and off. The epigenetics makes us unique. Epigenetics is reversible. Like, oh, you know, my gosh, how many times has that Western medical doctor say, here, take this prescription, and you're like, forever? You know, once you get on some of these drugs, they never tell you how to get off. It's lunacy. So we're looking at, and then there's nutrigenomics, which is about the food and how it reacts. So I've studied food as medicine, year at the Academy of Healing Nutrition in San Francisco. So understanding what you put in your body makes a difference. So we're looking at from the micro, internal, all the way to the cosmos as far as our environment. Basically, your lack or thereof is a result of something you ate, drank, inhaled, ingested, injected, were exposed to, put on your skin, believed, or perceived. That's the perception of the environment part. So what is turning you towards health? What is turning you towards illness? Let's take a look. I, as a feng shui and healthy home designer, come into your home like a little detective, and I'm trying to figure out, why do you have that and your neighbor doesn't, or your friend doesn't, or I was actually hired in Newport Beach, California. The whole street hired me because they're like, everybody on our street is jacked up. That street isn't, that street isn't, that street isn't, that street. Every single one of us has something nasty. So I was hired by the entire street to come in and figure out what their problem was. It actually was an ungrounded trunk line of Southern California Edison's electrical line down the center line of the street. they had extremely high exposure to electromagnetic fields. So, to recap, your inner and outer environments shape you. Alrighty, beliefs and thoughts, air, quality water, quality food, quality. I'm looking at all these things. I'm just opening up the envelope a little bit because most people have me stuck when they hear the words feng shui, couch, you know, curtains and carpet, you know. So I want to broaden the conversation. Everything is included. There is nothing outside of the realm in what I consider feng shui, from a micro to a macro point of view. But most people have it right in that lane of your immediate furniture. All right, so we'll be talking about some furniture today. All right, so we're going to be looking at increasing your health and wellness. What environmental conditions support just bumping up your potential for health? All right, let's take a look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the clutter talk. How many people feel completely overwhelmed about their clutter to where they just go, Amy's already up, to where you're like, I don't even declutter, because why start? Because it'll never end, so I'm not going to get to the end, so who cares? I mean, like, some people throw in the towel before they even start. Is anybody just so completely locked up that they have literally mentally thrown in the towel on decluttering? Stop. Somebody's laughing in the back. People are afraid to raise their hand, right? So, you know, that is an environment affecting you on the back end called I feel stuck, I feel overwhelmed, I don't know how to make decisions, you know, the self-floggingness of this clutter and the conversation that it takes. So, the conversation of space equaling opportunity. Now, if I were to hold, this is my little Gauss meter that I test for electromagnetic fields and such. So if I were to hold something in my hand, now, first of all, you know, if I'm coming to your house, I will say to you, what are you looking to change in your life? And I've got that little tidbit. You're like, I want to travel the world and I want to ski more or whatever. And then they've got the Hummel collection. Used to be Beanie Babies. Let's see, Yadra, you know, like I've seen them all, right? So, so we put something in the hand, and we go, how does this relate to your dream future? How does this support your environment to create this future for you? So we're looking at the stuff and how it stacks up to your future dream. My number one, if I were to say my number one frustration with my clients is they don't dream big enough. People are like, I don't know, health and balance, you know, give me some juicy stuff. I want a national best-selling book. I want, you know, like whatever it is. I feng shui this book very specifically with feng shui to be a national bestseller. I did very specific things for that outcome. I've been hired by horse trainers at Santa Anita Racetrack in California because their horses were winning, but consistently getting disqualified. The ultimate bad juju in the horse racing industry. You don't want to be an untouchable in the horse racing industry, and that's one way to get it. So horses are winning, yet getting disqualified. Karen shows up, horses win and collect the purse. I want very identifiable, you know, harmony, balance, that's all great, but give me something juicy to work with, because the juicier I can create and help you visualize a future for you, a future potential for you, the more energy you have, and it compels you towards that future, and the more strength you have with this conversation about clutter. Because clutter is usually, it goes down to two things. Number one, the inability to make a decision about it. And my number one thing that I find is guilt. Ouch. What's going on in your house is going on in your life. What's closest to you over the most amount of time makes the biggest impact on you. If you have a bunch of guilty things around your house, I paid a lot of money for it, I got it for a wedding present, I need to display it whenever they come over, even though I hate it. It's the only thing I have from Aunt Edna. I inherited it, AKA my ancestors who have never been to my house are now the interior designers of it. Let's think about what we're choosing to surround ourselves in our immediate environment. It makes a difference. How we're perceiving our environment can make or break our health and wellness. So now, with all that said, you got something in your hand. What am I going to do with this thing? Oh, travel the world and ski more. And it's a Hummel. I'm thinking on Hummels today. How does that support me? What are you willing to use your valuable space on? I'm going to reframe your brain about space because I have seen space equal opportunity. I am currently disrupting the whole concept of home. I'm selling my condo and not going anywhere. In particular, I'm becoming house free because I'm choosing to see home as where I am. Wow. Woo.
Very great.
Can you see woo, that's a charge. Woo, I'm working through it, but I must know the absolute nth degree to be able to write, to be able to tell my clients about it. So here's your story. Yadro collection, I want to be traveling the world and skiing more. Yadro collection. If we take this away, picture the same thing as I'm taking it away. I am filling my hand. That same amount of space, which can now only be this meter, or that Yadro, or that Hummel. Taking it away, I filled my hand with not nothingness. I filled my hand with infinite potential. So by taking things away, a lot of people have it as a story in their mind, a concept of nothingness or lack or emptiness. And I'm telling you, when you take it away, you are filling your space with infinite potential. Infinite potential. Now with your idea and concept and dream and intention to be traveling the world and skiing more, this conscious space will show up for you, and the things will fill in that will support this future. I had a client, she was 61 years old at the time, in Houston, Texas, and she needed both knees replaced, and she was over 100 pounds overweight. The surgeon said, you need to lose the weight so I can do the knees, and the trainer said, you need to get the knees so I can help you lose the weight. She was in a circle trap in her mind. She hires me. That's a pretty interesting challenge, huh? Like, okay, new knees. I mean, you could just see how she, it hurt to watch her walk. Painful, like waddling kind of a thing. Sorry, I have an eye I call drippy. I'm going to have Amy work it out for me later on. And so I helped her envision a future of health and vitality. And so we've sat down, we've talked about what she's dreaming about. I go to her house, and everything in her house is hearkening of the distant past. She's got great-grandma's beaded purse over the banister. She's got great-grandpa's pipe in a shadow box on the wall. It looks like a museum of the 17 and 1800s. All the furniture was the shellac or whatever, was so old that, it was like black. It wasn't even like cherry colored anymore. It was like blackened, antique, that old lacquer, black lacquer looking, And so I'm walking around this ancient feeling, dusty, I felt like this myself. And so I'm walking around and I'm just going, where's your stuff? And she's like, well, I'm the last one of my whole family, so the pile has been dumped on her. obligated, weighted down, holding this stuff for who? Not matching her dream at all. As a matter of fact, she was a Civil War reenactment person. So she had the spinner thing under the bed, and she had the little fake baby for the basket next to the spinner, and her husband had the blue or the gray outfit, I forget which one. All this Civil War reenactment stuff was under the bed. There was nothing projecting towards the future. It was all looking back at the past. Tip, if you have a mirror on your headboard wall, you will be compelled to look always in the past. Just a little feng shui tip there. I know Clive Daniel and Rob Stecky are all telling people, there's mirrors on the headboard wall above the nightstands. I'm saying, no, don't do it. So anyway, back to my client. So I'm looking around and I found a little Polaroid in the medicine cabinet mirror. There was a little Polaroid stuck there. And I pulled it out and I go, who's this? And it was like little hippies, little daisy headband, like true hippie, like the daisy thing around the head. And she goes, oh, that's us on our wedding day. Like he had like the white man afro thing, 1969 special, I'm talking here. And I looked at it and I just turned them and I go, where did the hippies go? And you could see it was almost like Rubik's Cube was twirling in her brain, and boop, she got it from me saying, where did the hippies go? She looked around her house and was like, she could see her stuff in a whole new way just by saying, where did the hippies go? So she went after it. She painted those antiques like the Partridge Family bus, you know what I'm saying? Like, one piece of the spindle was red, this piece was yellow, that was teal. She went bonker hippie on this stuff. And she's chucking all the old stuff out. And she went into 24-hour fitness and plunked a year's worth of training money down. And plus a year's worth of training for her husband who had Epstein-Barr and was just as old acting as she was. And she goes, boom, honey, happy Valentine's Day. Boom, 1 year of training for both of us. And the trainer was like, well, all you can do is this hand bicycle thing. Like, I don't know what to do with you because you can't move, you know. And so he said, why don't you make up something fun that you want to do that you think you can do? And she came up with kayaking because it's upper body strength. Didn't have to use her knees. And he said, I'll spend my time with you kayaking instead of in the gym. I think we can make a difference doing that. In the meantime, we're re-farkling around her house and redoing it, moving her stuff. And long story short, they sell that house and we do a next one. I, of course, get after that one from the get-go because she released all that old ancient stuff and the guilt around keeping it. Big emotional thing that happens in between there. Plan on it. It will happen. You'll get over it. And next thing you know, she is competing in 100-mile kayak races down the Colorado River, and she had to drop down out of the 55 and over category because she's smoking them so bad that she was competing in the 35 and ups just to make it competitive for her. Now, the next thing, I go back to her house, her new house, and she had the garage door open when I went there, and so I walked into the garage. She's out in the garage, so I walked through the garage, and I see like a garment rack of wetsuits that are drying because she just came in from kayaking. A big tub of different oars. I'm like, why so many? And she's like, oh, the different scoop size, depending on the waves and the water current. And I'm like, oh my God, she's so technical. And there's a tandem thing, a single kayak, everything. And then she's got, then you walk through the, into the house, and there's the whole setup of protein goo packs that she's squirting in her mouth when she doesn't have time to pee or eat. She's 100 miles, squirt, squirt. I'm like, oh my God. Like all night. She's all night. It's 100 miles. Like in the nighttime on the Colorado River, doesn't have time to pee. I'm like, I bow down to you. Wow. And so, and when I first met her, I mean, she was this lady from the past well, you would like some sweet tea? You know, with the lady with the big hats from Houston. I mean, that's kind of how when I first met her. And instead of those big rimmed hats, she now had a hole on the back of the door, these caps from every race she had ever entered. And I'm looking at her hats are different. Her stuff was different. And I said to her, if I would have said to you 3 years ago, look, you know, with the beaded thing and the smoky pipe and the whatever, what you need is a garment rack in your garage with wetsuits, you know, to hold your wetsuits, a big tub for all your oar scoops and she's like, yeah, I would have thought you were crazy. But she switched her stuff to support a healthy, athletic, happy, dynamic future, and it happened. So I'm feeling but I only have to keep it. So I'm here to invite you, I give you permission to stop the chronic holding for the future descendants story. My mom had a box for me, and she says, when I went home one year, she still had the dress that I wore in my sister's wedding when I was 20 years old. She pulled it out for my sister's 25th wedding anniversary. She wanted me to put the dress back on. I'm like, where the heck is this? I don't care. I live in the moment. So she had a box for me, and inside the box was things like my high school letter sweater and things like that. You know, diary, something, I don't know. And so she's like, oh, here's your box. Take it back to California with you. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And she's like, it's your box. So how many people have the boxes? And I go, I don't want that box. I don't need anything in the box. Oh, you know what's in that box? And she says, well, it's your box. And I said, well, just take it to the dumpster. I don't care. And she's like, but it's your box. And I go, I don't want it. So I said, I don't even want to open it because I know all of a sudden the connections will start to be made. You know, oh, my high school letter sweater. High school letter sweater does not match world traveler, digital nomad, global citizen at all. I don't care. So I said, well, give me a jar of spaghetti sauce. She goes, why? I go, because I'm going to open it up a little bit, pour it in there. So when I open it up, everything will be ruined. So if I look around, I have to throw it away anyway. She's aghast. She's like, ah! And I said, clearly, it's your stuff, not mine. What attachments are you having? I have had clients line their whole houses with curio cabinets with American Girl dolls, have the gastric bypass and not lose 1 pound. And I came in, I go, what's with all the dolls? Oh, I'm saving it for my grandchildren. I'm collecting them for my grandchildren. I go, can I have the phone? Okay. What's your daughter's number? Hi, I'm here with your mom. And she says all these dolls in her house are going to be given to your daughter. Does she want them? She says, turn the phone towards my mom. And I go, we don't want the dolls! Now, if they were for the granddaughter, it would have been, oh, I can get rid of all these dolls, right? Do you think that happened? No. I hung up the phone. I go, now what's your excuse? You have to get to the bottom of what is tethering you to the past that is not allowing you to go to your future. Does that make sense? Create infinite potential. You will be shocked at what shows up. You don't need to know the how you're going to get there. Make space for it. The next steps will show up in front of you. Just like the lady who was actually in the 24-hour fitness commercial. Eventually they asked her to be in their commercials. My thriving.
She got her knees done.
She got her knees done?
Yes, she got her knees done. She's skinny. She's an athletic person. She's about 68 now and still knocking it out of the park. All right, so, we're trying to create some space. So I usually say eliminate. We'll use the 5-box decluttering method. Categorize and then organize. First of all, get rid of things. And then we're going to categorize. Most people are just like, oh, there's stuff everywhere. I went through my mom's house. She always goes, you help everybody else declutter. Why not me? I'm like, because you're very resistant, but whatever. So I helped her. She had wrapping paper. There were so many areas of wrapping paper piles. I just couldn't believe how much wrapping paper. And she says, I know, rather than go find what I need, I just buy new. Because I'm too lazy to find. I couldn't believe how much wrapping stuff she had, but they were in dresser drawers. There was a bin under the bed. There was some in the attic, some in a closet. And I'm just like, just get it all together, and then you'll at least be able to see what you've got, right? So that's the categorize, getting all the things that go together in their own little pile, and then you organize it. Let's see. All right. Where do you feel cluttered the most? I would recommend, because of the rule, what's closest to you has the most impact on you. So go to the places that feel like they're limiting you the most, and I might start there, where you spend the most amount of time. Your bedroom is very important to me because that's 8 hours of the night, and that's also where you gather a lot of health energy, and our talk is about wellness today. So I would recommend, if nowhere else, starting with your bedroom. All right. If you feel completely overwhelmed and stuck and you have no idea where to start, I would say get a Post-it note, and each Post-it note represents one decluttering session for you. Maybe you're the 1 hour per Post-it note person. Maybe you're the 15-minute per Post-it note. Maybe you're the I kick it for 8 hours and then I don't look at it for another 2 months Post-it note person. So your Post-it note time is your Post-it note time that you know that you feel comfortable decluttering. So if you feel completely overwhelmed and you don't think there is an end to decluttering, start by Post-it noting. That is 4 decluttering sessions. That's 8 over there. And start putting Post-it notes everywhere. Then you can back it up and you can say, oh, it's not a hopeless, endless amount of time and it will never be done. Maybe I put 1 hour per Post-it note, and you put 365 Post-it notes in your house. You go, it's 365 1-hour sessions. If I do one a day, I can be done in a year. You know, like, it will help you get out of the lie you're telling yourself about it's impossible or it's never ending. If you know how to eliminate, categorize, and organize, you can get that done. So if you feel completely stuck and you don't even want to start because you don't think it's possible to end, I would try the Post-it note technique. I'm going to show you that it's actually faster than that. So when we're going to be doing decluttering, I want you to remember the space equals opportunity. How much space do we need? At least 51 or more % of the volume of the space I want to be space, potential, opportunity, as opposed to stuff. So I'm not talking about opening up every drawer and seeing half of the bottom of the drawer on half, but the top half of the volume of the drawer. We just don't want, you know, spring-loaded sock balls, you know, when you open up and you get hit by a sock ball because they're jammed in there. We want space for it to breathe. The books can be all books up in the bookshelf. Put them all, you know, flush with the front of the shelf, so all the spines are nice and in line with each other, and the space is the zigzaggedy part behind the shelf. You don't have to have half of the shelf completely empty, but feel free to use that space in the back. I want at least a little ½ inch between each hanger. I don't want the hangers crunching over on top of each other and you're like fighting with it, right? To where the point where you give up on that whole section of the closet because I don't want to fight to pull the sweater out and stretch it and everything. Breathing room. As a matter of fact, when I help people declutter, and I try to, you know, there's the full mantle of stuff, and I say to them, and I take like half the stuff off, I usually get my shirt or something, and I'm taking half the stuff off their mantle, so instead of picture, 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 it's picture, nothing, 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 picture, nothing, 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 picture. And I'm holding all the rest of the pictures, and I go, how does that feel? And they always go, it feels really good. Did you see? It's like, if you can't breathe and if you feel shut down, and especially if you have asthma or any lung conditions, decluttering has got to be in your future because it does affect breathing. If you have taken on somebody's stuff after they have passed and you can just put it all in my garage, I will go through it. Probably one of the near things in your future is some sort of bronchial or lung thing. You'll get something clamped down in the lungs. The lungs are also in charge of grief, so a double hit on the lungs because of the mourning and grief. as well as the actual clunking down of your physical space, which will affect your lungs. So go. When you can go, that feels good. Now we've got some movement towards our future stuff. So 50% should be no thing, which, what is it? Infinite potential. It's not no thing, it's more stuff called my juicy stuff. Okay. Even I'm talking about wall space. Right? What ends up when you have solid stuff and no space? You know, would a gallery, what would you, if you went into an art gallery and you saw this, you'd be like, I'm out of here, right? You'd be just like, I can't even see the forest of the trees. It just becomes one big blobbage of thing. It doesn't become individual things to look at. The gallery owners, they know how much space they need around a piece to be able to enjoy and see it. So solid stuff, I'm even talking about on the walls. So every place, 51 or more % potential. All right, eliminate, category, and organize. We already got that. How are we going to eliminate? All right, what to expect when eliminating? Here's some health and wellness stuff we're talking about. Weight loss. When I get my clients to go through their entire house, it's usually a 15-pound weight loss without trying. When their whole house is from stem to stern clean. It's usually on average 15 pounds. And they're like, I didn't even diet. Feelings of relief, elation, breathing more fully, of course, anti-anxiety and all that. Plan on various emotions coming up, just like Amy was talking about in the earlier talk. Stuff comes up and is released, we're getting rid of it. New opportunities and relationships, plan on them appearing. Better relationships. Here's that 5-box method I'm talking about. So whether it's 5 zones on the driveway, 5 spots on your bedroom floor, 5 banker boxes if you're taking out, a bookshelf or something like that. Box number 1, give away. Sell. You're like, oh, that's easy stuff to get rid of. I don't have an emotional attachment to it. I can donate it, whatever. Box number 2, keep but store. Sticking to the 50% rule. I need this for taxes. I need this for, you can't just jam everything in your garage, solid stuff. We have to keep that 50% rule. So wherever you're storing it, you have to have at least 50% storage or reconsider. So many people downsize their 10,000 square foot house to their 4,000 square foot house, and they bring the same amount of furniture. Lungs, potential, future, gone, stuck. Don't do that to yourself. It belongs somewhere else in the house. Don't take the spatula and go to the kitchen, make a sandwich, and all of a sudden you forgot you were decluttering. Stay right there, just put it in, it belongs somewhere else. It belongs here. You're going to dismantle the bookshelf and you're just going to go, that belongs here. You're not going to root around the stuff that stays. You're going to eventually take everything out of the closet, everything out of the bookshelf, and put it in the it belongs here. You're going to put it back later after you've dusted it and cleaned it off. And then, I don't know. Feel free to use the I don't know box. And here's the decision making. You put it in your hand and you're like, oh, that Hummel could go to Aunt Edna. Aunt Edna's involved today. So let's see, I could give that to so-and-so. Oh, you know what, somebody said they liked that when they came by here for a party. Who was that said that? I might give it to, I can't remember who that was. Blah, blah, blah. If it's in your hand 5 seconds and you don't know which box else to put it in, you don't know. Put it in it keeps you going. I don't know. And I've done this with my clients. I go, let's practice decluttering. And they just stick. And I'm like, you don't know. And she's like, oh yeah. You keep forgetting that choice is there. So, you don't know. She's like, and I had one client, we were practicing in her dining room china cabinet. She's throwing out Waterford, Tiffany, she's got some expensive stuff going in the I don't care pile. And I'm like seeing her vibe and I'm like, all right, I'll help her. And then I run across this little pink and purple plastic motorcycle thing. Like a little, and I'm like, clearly if she's throwing out the Waterford, pink and purple, and I'm like, like trash, I'm sure. She's like, ah! oh, you know, there was some big story about who this belonged to, how did and so we had to do the, how does it match up to your future? You know, when you declutter, plan on the emotions happening, plan on the physical, you know, like nausea, just physical, emotional stuff. That is your connection. What's going on in your house is going on in your life. Dead on. This stuff is not just random stuff sitting there. It is emotional attachment, guilt, shame, sorry. It's mostly guilt, I would say. I find, when I boil it down, it's guilt. All right, and then of course we got the trash can. So remember to use the I don't know pile. So, everybody feel okay about, anybody have any questions about decluttering? Yes?
What do you do with the I don't know pile? Trash.
What I do for my clients, I usually don't tell them. I go, okay, put the I don't know on the top of the boxes, set them aside with your storage for now. Call me in 90 days. In 90 days, I call them, I go, you have a friend, and I say, you have a friend there when you call me. So they have a friend there, they call me, it's time to deal with my I don't know stuff, and I go, I want you to have your friend, what do you need from those boxes? And have your friend dig in there and get them. And they always go, yeah, I don't know what's in there. It's stuff you don't need, you don't love, you don't want, you don't use. It's just a guilt attachment to it, and that's why you don't know. And you know, the things for men, you know, their thing is, I might be able to use it for spare parts if that other thing breaks, you know, the big wall of wires and stuff like that, you know. So the men have it just as, you know, it's expensive, I paid a lot of money for it. Or sometimes, I mean, I've had clients from like Russia and things like that where, you know, they had no things, you know. So a loaf of bread was, you were the bomb that week because your family had a loaf of bread, you know. So when you were raised with that consciousness, man, you know, sometimes I've actually had a 3.5-hour conversation with one of my clients about the possibility of cleaning off her dining room table. 3.5 hours talking about cleaning off the dining room table. If I couldn't get about the dining room table, I wasn't going to get the whole house. It's a holographic universe, you know. The dining room table represents everything about it. And after Nick just getting around and finding and worming my way through the conversation, I finally got out of her, and it came up like a throw up. She went, revenge! Like, like, stand back everybody, there it is. And I was like, what? And she goes, oh my gosh, revenge. The reason my house is like this is because my husband told me that if we bought this house instead of the one I wanted, he would promise me he was going to blow out the kitchen and make it a lovely kitchen. As soon as we bought the house he wanted, he closed the purse strings and said no. And I proceeded in the next 25 years to make this the most uninhabitable house without knowing it. So once we found the pivotal thing, revenge, she did not even know that's what she did. She proceeded, she started going through that house, she made changes, she took one bedroom and made it her walk-in closet. I mean, she was free to roam about the cabin of freedom now, but we needed to find that out. So it's an internal investigation work with this clutter. And I think there are TV shows now that you know, start to show that, yeah?
Just one question, when you talk about the old things or the things that you've kept, and that most of the time they're connected with guilt or something like that, what if you have things that truly, when you see them,
Yes.
yes, when you see them, they engage a memory that is wonderfully pleasant.
If you have the space for them, and you love them, and they are useful to you, called, they bring me joy.
Yes.
If you've got the space, and you are not hampered, called, I really want to be doing this in my life, but I'm doing this, I don't care.
You gotta qualify it though. Yes.
How does it match up with your life?
Okay.
I'm looking at it going, honey, you don't have the square footage for that thing. Now, how can we get you more square footage? I might work to feng shui engage your spaces to invite the opportunity of a bigger home to hold that big honking thing that you must have in your house. You know, so we can work it around. It's not about me just kicking everything to the curb. It's about how does it align with who you are. And if I'm tethered back in the past, You know, my mom's freaking out that I'm selling my house. She's freaked out that I moved to California. She freaked out that I moved to Florida. She's a freaker outer. You know, she is change resistant. She actually has the lung disease to prove it. She has pulmonary fibrosis. I'm telling you, the lungs. Although I did a feng shui cure on her, she was given a 5-year sentence about 15 years ago. And I did a lung cure for her, and she almost wants to die to prove that her Western medicine is right. And I'm like, sorry, too bad, no lung cure is working for you in spite of you. So anyway, I digress. Where'd my little clicker go? So let's talk about furniture, because most of the people come to a feng shui talk to talk about where is the best place for furniture. So we're going to arrange our furniture for optimal wellness, and we're going to be talking about the armchair position or command position. That's the common terms that we talk about, the ultimate placement for the main pieces of furniture in our house. I'm talking about your bed, the number one place I would say I would spend time on getting for wellness would be getting your bed in an optimal location. Second and third would be your office chair, and by that I mean your daytime main seating. Maybe you're retired, maybe you don't go to an office, maybe you have a home office. Wherever you spend the most amount of time other than your bed, we'll call that the office chair. And then hopefully while you're cooking, I would like those to be in empowering positions. We're always looking at if there is a choice between furniture, the one where you spend the most amount of time in it, or the largest piece in the room, like the couch versus the love seat. That's a random, I'm just gonna give you sort of a rule to follow. Let's go to the history of the armchair position, the history of feng shui according to me. I just made this up. Here we go. Oh, we got some weird graphics today we're noticing. So thousands of years ago in a land far away, a man builds his house next to the river. It was a patriarchal society back there, ladies. So the man did it. And doors are mouths, windows are eyes. So look at the face of the building, right? We personify our architecture by giving it the face. I'm gonna give my house a facelift. So we personify our architecture and we complain about our lives in architectural terms. It's like I'm running into a wall with everything I do. You know, so it's interesting with our language how we mix our architecture and what's going on in our life. Listen to your complaints, go find it in your house. That's feng shui without even knowing a thing about feng shui. If you're running into a wall with everything you do, I bet there's a place where there's a wall very close in front of your face. Maybe your desk is up facing a wall. All right, so a man builds his house next to the riverbank, and he's like, what a lucky position this is. I can feed the animals, wash my dishes, everything's great. And then one year the river rises out of its banks and washes his house off the map. So the first feng shui note ever recorded, move up the hill. So it's all about telling their descendants, don't do this, do this. This was lucky for me, this wasn't so lucky. That's how this whole process of arranging yourself in space began. As a matter of fact, almost every culture in the world has their own style of feng shui except us here in the West. So we have to go borrow other styles. The closest thing the United States has to a feng shui guide that just came about naturally is the Farmer's Almanac. Plant this under this amount of time, you have the highest yield. That's the closest thing we have. You know, we took it from the agrarian thing. We didn't go all the way into the home. So then this guy builds his house at the tippity top of the hill. He's like, I'm so safe from the water up here. It's all good. I got a little bit of a track, but I got the water. Everything's cool, but I can see when that water's rising. I have time to flee. I have time to run. It's not going to get me. But guess what? The north wind's blowing off the top of the hill. Second feng shui note ever recorded moves somewhere between the wind and the water. Feng shui is actually wind and water, the two words, wind and water. But just like honey and moon, when you smash them together, it doesn't really have anything to do with honey or moon. You smash them together, it means wedding night. You smash feng and shui together, it means this art of arrangement. The feng wind is the invisible forces. You didn't even see it, but it wiped you off the map. And the water represents the seen forces. I saw it, like your couch, your curtains, things like that. I can see it and I can make a difference. So today we're looking at both the feng and the shui, the wind and the water, the visible and invisible. Think about what Amy was talking about earlier with all the environmental connections and emotions and things like that. If you have intention, consciousness, awareness, all these things that are ungrabbable, they make a huge difference in your future. So, what do we end up with? We end up living somewhere between the wind and the water, safely protected with a mountain behind us to keep us safe, like we're getting a little hug from behind. It feels so safe when somebody's got your back. There's a little complaint tip. If you say that nobody's got your back, you are probably sitting more times than not in this command position with nobody with your back. If the hills come around, I don't know what's with my graphics, they're really funky today. So, the hills come around and there's like arms coming around, hugging you from behind. It's like, I can just rest in that nice, safe armchair. And you're like, great, I live in flat old Florida. There's not a hill to be found. What am I going to do? We're going to revert back to the original rule. What's closest to you has the most impact on you. So we're going to translate this from a more macro regional conversation to you in your furniture. So the mountain behind you that protects your back, that makes you feel like somebody's got your back, where nobody is stabbing you in the back, where nobody's talking behind your back. All of those are things where you're not sitting in the command position. You will be complaining like that. This equals the headboard and the wall behind the headboard of your bed. This equals the wall and the chair back of your office chair or your daytime seat, wherever you are. And the water down in front of you. So you can see who's coming and the flow coming towards you and not be surprised by it. Ladies and gentlemen, Southwest Florida residents, how many people have a canal, water, retention basin at your back? We are quite often sitting backwards in our armchair position in South Florida with water out our back view, or a pool out back, right? So we have the water behind us. That's not the traditional empowering position, so we use feng shui cures to go about curing that. All right, I just want to do a quick little thing about who commands respect without even saying a word. Because don't you want respect, people? You don't want to have to say, hey, respect me, respect me, respect me. Hey, respect me. You just want to be like, I'm respected. I don't have to say anything. Who commands respect? Look at this, up 3 steps. Big, massive wall behind them, thrown back. There's no windows along that wall. There's nothing where somebody can sneak up behind them and scare them, the flow coming in from behind, where they get attacked from behind. You know, the mafia, they know feng shui. They don't know they know feng shui. But they know what a good position that can keep them alive is, and it is this same command position. So, who commands respect? Somebody sitting a little bit taller? Somebody with a solid wall at their back. What? Who's in charge? This guy? No. Protection from behind. I saw Aida in Broadway years ago, and when the father off stage got killed, the king, and the son was now the king, he was just standing there. Somebody runs on the thing and goes, psh, 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 and this, the only thing that changed was the set. A giant big piece, a rectangular piece came down behind the man, and everyone said, oh my God, the dad just died. He's now the king. We knew he was the king by virtue of they put a set piece behind him. Not a word was said. We knew it because he was put in that command position. So, set designers use it. Why don't we use it? Use it in your house. How would a set designer show you as the queen of the home, the king of the home, the person who is commanding respect in the household? So many times it's given to the pet, the children, That's what I work with, that's my job, my cards are in the back. Okay, so we know who's in charge here. He's got more chair back than even when he's standing can handle, let alone the wall behind him. He's raised up. Look at this chair back! Is that a crack up? It's almost comical. Like, supreme leader, by golly, just look at my throne back. Okay? Have you ever seen a window behind a judge? Never. Look at the people we give respect to. We're like, oh, I'm so, and you don't even know them. And you don't even know if they deserve the respect. But you give that to them because of their position in three-dimensional space. What?
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that was.
Is there ever full backing? It's almost comical. Doesn't that look, how weak that looks compared to the king's positions? Comical. I've stripped for fear of political whatever, I've stripped this down, but I used to show certain presidents and how they look. Comical. You're like, he's the leader of the free world. Like yeah. So I was walking in one neighborhood and I'm like, what? This is the back of a house. I'm walking on the street and I looked at the sign. This property is protected by surveillance cameras. Like, they felt so unprotected because the street, which is the water flow circulation of our day, we don't have those rivers, but our streets are what brings the energy towards us these days. The street was behind their house and they felt compelled to put a sign up to try to protect themselves a little bit. Here's how it looks in your home. Hey, we finally got the furniture. That's TikTok, right? Okay, so this is walking into a house in Newport Beach, and I was like, oh, that's not very welcoming. Let me think. This is the only solid wall. I'm at the front door. There's a big view out that way, glass over here, and this whole wall is like fireplace over here. So all I did was I took the same stuff, and I tried to use that wall as much as possible with both pieces of furniture, and I just twirled it around that way. How much more inviting does that look than that? Back unprotected, vulnerable position. Oh, okay, come in, sit down. The best to the worst positions for your bed. I'm showing a bed, but the headboard can also be your chair back at the office. I got a couple chair backs pictures. Best position up against the solid wall to be able to see who's coming in the door but not be in line with the door. Make sure that the opening, that you're on the doorknob side of the door. Like if the door opens up this way, that's a whole nother feng shui problem where you're behind the door. So that requires a mirror on that wall. It's a whole nother, call me if you need it. So headboard, solid wall, no punctures. Looks like this, solid wall. Nice strong headboard. Here you can see the whole entire wall. No punctures, no windows, no mirrors, no doors. Nice solid head wall. A lot of red walls in this picture. I don't know what happened to my red wall. I just was attracted to red when I pulled the slideshow together apparently. I'm not proposing, red walls are not the jam here. We're looking at the positions. So this person was trying to build this mountain behind them by adding the bookcase behind them. So they were really trying to feel like stronger, get that king's position with the mountain behind them. But we're looking at the solid wall here. So this gentleman, you know, he's got a lot of windows here, but he has put himself up against in the more powerful position coming in. It's almost like, you know, you want to be like, come in, sit down, talk to me, like CEO. As opposed to in the movies, as opposed to what I call the nutty professor position. All eyes, come in, the camera's coming in on the nutty professor. Is the nutty professor going, oh, come in? He's usually going, whoa, bing, like, you know, they always have their back. Have you ever noticed? He's so in focus and his back is to the thing. He never has the power in the movie. He's the goofball or the odd, you know, jittery, boing, his hair's like all freaked out. So we're looking for this position. I don't know who this person is behind him, but they felt obligated to hang that in a strange position. So we're looking at solid wall behind you. A little bit weaker than that would be to have punctures in the wall, not above the headboard or behind the headboard, but somewhere along that wall. It looks something like this. Doesn't it feel slightly weaker than that solid wall position? You feel like, oh, it could be somebody looking in the window behind me. You know, here's like a little bit of wall, a little bit of window. I'm not sure if it's weak. I would prefer solid wall behind me. Weaker than that would be having your bed or chair back up against the same wall that the door coming into the room is on. Now you are officially sitting backwards in your armchair. You don't know what's coming. You don't have time to prepare yourself for a defense. And you will be skittish. What shows up is nervous conditions, eczema, anxiety, blah, 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 blah. This is what it looks like when you walk into the room. This room, all it had, this was the most wall in the whole room, and they gave it to the armoire. In living rooms, most people give the main wall to the TV when everything should be turned around. You know, in the name of good design, right? A lot of Architectural Digest looks really cool, but do you really want to live there? This is considered, you know, very vulnerable position, very loose energy. I call this diarrhea of the house when you walk in and you see more out than in. Energy comes. If you're walking in the house and you're like, wow, which a lot of homes in Naples are designed, the giant big glass double door front door to the gianter big glass wall exiting the house. Diarrhea of the house. Nobody feels like ever using that living room in between because you're kind of, you know, I don't want to be in my underwear with the front door there and the back door there. It's too exposed, too yang in the feng shui world. This is completely erased walls, you know, and very cool and interesting, not very wholesome, home-filled, energy-holding. I would say even weaker than that position up against that wall would be having windows above the head of the bed. You are in a very vulnerable position. This is another client in California. She had a nice juicy solid wall here that she put a mirror on. I recommended that she put the bed up against that nice juicy solid wall. And doesn't it look like it's sort of like plump there, floating? It's not really anchored in. She was a fertility, couldn't get pregnant client. This is a client, same stuff. There's a little table over there, little table over here. Here's a nice, strong folding thing. Doesn't it, I feel like, I don't even know, but doesn't it feel like this bed is on wheels? It just feels like I could move it really easily. Same stuff, rearranged. The mountain with the two arms of the armchair, just try to get that position. Safe. Empowered. I can get a good night's sleep. We will be talking about what could potentially be behind the wall. So here's, you know, this guy's getting rammed in the back with the truck. He doesn't even know it. So that's an office position with a window behind. If you don't know what's coming up behind you, I do have a good little story. I worked in West Palm Beach years ago as a landscape architect, worked for a firm. They were on the 6th floor of a 10-story building. On the 7th floor was the West Palm Beach, one of the television stations. So one day, some guys in the office took a pair of pants and a shirt, stuffed them with blueprints, pinned it all together, went up to the roof, and the way the news was shot, the windows were behind the newscasters, and you could see the planes landing and the sun setting, and you always knew what was going on outside because all you had to do was watch the news, and that was outside the window. And they went to up to the top of the building, and during the news, they threw this over. So it looked like somebody just committed suicide during the news. Phones are ringing. They didn't even know what happened behind them. You don't know what's going on behind your back. If you have that language in, didn't see that one coming. If you say that a lot, you're in a vulnerable position more amount of the time. All I have to do is listen to your words, and I know what you've got in your house. People think I'm psychic. People tell me their problems, I go, oh, do that in your house. How'd you know I had that in my house? I just heard it. Just like a doctor, you see the red spots on the arm, and you go, I don't know, what is it? And they go, oh, it's measles or whatever. And you go, of all the choices, how do you know? I've seen it a million times. I've been going to people's homes for 30 years. I don't even want to say that number. And I have been listening to people's problems, and I've been seeing the patterns in their three-dimensional spaces. After a while, you pretty much go, yeah, tell me what the problem, I know, I've seen it a million times. So it's not your bad luck. It's not, you know, your time for whatever. It's something you ate, drank, inhaled, ingested, believed, perceived, what you were exposed to. What is in your environment? It makes a difference. Patterns. I'm a pattern seer. That's all I am. I change your patterns. So this was a guy, an attorney friend of mine, and I just wanted to show the difference between all glass versus trying to make it more solid. Sometimes you have to do the lesser of the evils. If there's no walls, how are you going to change your environment? So we practice with some interior type answers to things, as well as the traditional cures, which I'll get to in a second. So can you find a better position for your furniture now? I'm thinking up against the solid walls, a better position than the windows in the first place. Scoot the desk around. So, we can't stand ourselves. Okay, sometimes there's no optimal position and we have to use the lesser of the evil. This house, the best wall we had in this whole living room was this wall. I'm standing with my back to the island of the kitchen. On the left over here is all fireplace along that whole wall. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to take the main piece of furniture and I'm going to put it up against that wall and work from there. That's how I'm going to do it. Pick the biggest piece, get it in the safest position, and work from there. So this is the before, literally not staged. Like it looks like, oh, come on. Literally not staged. And this is the after. Oh, I feel safe sitting on that couch. I feel welcomed, right? I don't know what's going on here. There's a table just sort of by itself and just pulling things together and making the conversation happen. If you're complaining about communication issues, you might have this blown apart furniture where everybody's looking at the TV and not at each other. I want the furniture turned around, having a conversation. The sitting circle, the environmental psychology of your spaces. As a landscape architect, I did a lot of theme park work. We felt like little puppeteers. It's embarrassing how people do what we want them to do. If you're a good designer, you're a puppeteer. You make people do what you want them to do in three-dimensional space. So back in the day, when I was doing theme parks, you didn't come out of the ride and have to go through the store to get off of the ride. Now it's so forced, they've become really lazy. But back in the day, we'd have to get them off the ride and somehow lure them into the store to buy the thing that they just got off the ride from. And so we would make the paving go that way. We would make, everything we would do was designed to move people, get them to stop where we wanted, get them to move where we wanted, get them to queue up where we wanted. That was our goal as a theme park landscape architect designer. So I understand how I just naturally do it because I've been doing it since college. How do I make people feel comfortable in space? So this was a sort of a natural progression for me. And thank God that China Airlines bought that hotel back in the 80s and wanted me to learn feng shui because it was really just another design language for me. So if you have situations where things are cutting overhead, this is what's considered the worst bed position, not because of the beams, but that's a horrible thing to have. But if the door to the room, this is at the end of a long hallway, a double door going into the foot of the bed. If the foot of your bed is in line with the door, it's actually called the death position. This is actually considered the worst position to have from a feng shui perspective. And I have I've seen that position play out, unfortunately. So you don't want to have that. You don't want to be chopped across the body with beams. You don't want to have your husband on one side of the beam and you on the other if the beams are going in the other direction. So what are we going to do? We're going to use some traditional cures. I've picked 3 to talk about. There's many, many, many traditional cures. People that read my book think they have to paint their house like the circus tent of my cover. And you don't have to. Color is one of the many ways to change the energy. I'm sure you've all painted a room and you're like, oh, it feels so different in here. So color is one of the many: light, living objects, moving objects, still objects, symbols. Other is one of the 9 traditional cures. Electrically powered objects, I noticed we didn't want. And so other, I find that to be an interesting one, so we'll hopefully get to some other cures. So I've chosen to talk about crystals and mirrors and the color red. Mirrors use the law of reflection, because I'm like, what the heck is a mirror going to do from a feng shui perspective? I'm a landscape architect, I got to figure this out. So I learned about the law of reflection. Crystals use the law of refraction. You stick a straw in a glass of water, it looks like it bends. Crystals, those multifaceted leaded glass crystals, are using that same law of refraction. You're using a crystal to break a straight line. If you got the big glass doors going to the big glass back door, diarrhea of the house as I call it, Hang a crystal somewhere in between to disperse the energy before it slides straight through from front door to back door. Does that make sense? You have a long, excuse me, a long hallway. Maybe you want to put a couple crystals along the hallway to disperse it so it doesn't start barreling down. And the color red does two things. It activates and draws attention to, like, look at me. And it also stops energy. Isn't it interesting that our stop signs are red to draw attention, and it actually says stop on it. So think of a stop sign when you think of what can I use, how can I cure my space where I need to stop this energy. All right, we'll get to some stuff. So remember that position where you're sitting backwards in your armchair? You're like, oh man, it's the only place where my headboard is up against the same wall that the door came in on. You could put a mirror on the other side, not to reflect you, but to actually put that door in front of you. So when you're sleeping there, you can see who's coming in without turning around, going, oh, who's coming? If you're stuck in a cubicle, people hate cubicles. Why? Because they're forced in a subservient position. Their back is exposed. Ah, sorry. And they're sitting like this. Put a mirror in front of you so you can see who's behind you. You're like, ah, okay, come in, Fred, even though they're walking up behind you. It or a reflection of it is the same thing. So put the door in front of you by putting a reflection of it in front of you. If you're cooking at the end of your long galley kitchen, your stove's at the end, the party's behind you, put a mirror somewhere so that you have that view behind you. Nobody's going to sneak up on you and you're going to put all that scary energy into your food to transfer it, like that movie, like Water for Chocolate. Did you ever see that movie? She's crying into the cake batter and then everybody starts crying and getting sick. Energy transfer. Who wants to sit in this position if everybody's coming in the door and you're sitting there? Very vulnerable position. Here's the traditional, it's like I'm beating my head against the wall. I can't get ahead. I'm stuck. If you're facing a wall like that, you're beating your head against the wall. If you've got water or the horizon line higher than you, this person might say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm so busy, I can't get my nose above water. I'm using the symbol of water there in that picture. Most kids that have anxiety and generalized anxiety usually have surf-themed rooms or a lot of water in their room, or maybe you have one of those Wyland pictures where it's like the entire picture is undersea above your bed. Is it naturally occurring to sleep below the fishes? Nobody wants to sleep with the fishes, right? So think about that. Don't put a whale weather vane on the top of your house. Not natural to be below the fish. Don't hang pictures of fish above pictures of birds. Something does not compute with our biological innate sense of good pattern that feels calm and natural, okay? Sky, stars, clouds, hot air balloons, trees, people, worms, fish, whatever. I mean, I'm just trying to get the up and down thing. So think about when you're hanging your art. Do you find yourself below the horizon line? Mirrors equal water, by the way. A high-placed mirror could be doing the same thing to you. Here's the dunce position, nose in the corner. There's the galley kitchen. Now, let's have the sleep, poo-poo, cook conversation. My grandmother, I was so fortunate that my grandmother was in her house. She had an outhouse. Like, there was only an outhouse. And I designed this whole talk about what happened when the outhouse came in. The hidden inconveniences about our conveniences. So when the outhouse came in, my grandmother was grossed out that people will now be pooping inside her house. Think about that transition from outhouse to in-house. Like, there was that generation that's like, oh my God, like, what? We're not pooping inside? That's not. Well, Grandpa never was allowed to use the in-house. He still had to go to the outhouse. Even though she had an in-house, Grandpa never was allowed to use the in-house. But it registered with me, and I remember that feeling. And so every time new technology comes into your house, what are the upsides and what are the downsides? We used to have we used to sleep here, cook here, and go poo-poo way over there. And now poo-poo is so close to sleep or so close to cook. Maybe the stove is on the other side. So what's happening in our three-dimensional spaces? Maybe you're sleeping here and poo-poo is directly above you. Maybe poo-poo is straight above cook. Think about where our things are in our three-dimensional spaces. So I'm looking as if your walls are acrylic and I can see right through them, And I go into people's homes, I go, oh, it's too bad your master bathtub is directly above your stove. And she's like, no, it's not. I go, I've been in her house 5 minutes. I go, yeah, it is. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, let's go outside. Okay, see the bathroom window and see your kitchen window, see it, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't even notice. So I have this innate ability to see three-dimensional spaces because I was trained to do that. But I want you to pay attention to the proximity of things. Sometimes you go to open houses and you're like, oh, I don't like that powder bath right off the kitchen, right? There's something wrong with sleep, poo-poo, cook, vernacular and dimensions. So, sleep, poo-poo, cook. Very interesting conversation. So what we would do here, we would take a mirror. I'm looking at the mirror, and I put it in between the headboard wall and the wall, the headboard and the wall, to push the plumbing in the pipes and the toilet away. I'm using the law of reflection. Back at you, toilet. Don't come into my bed space. Let's say I have a noisy neighbor, over there. I take a mirror, I'm looking at my mirror, I put it up against the wall to face them, or put it out in my yard all the way back. So it's like, boom, back at you. I don't want your noise in my neighborhood.
So you're facing the back of the mirror?
The part that you see yourself in would go facing the bathroom to push it back at itself. It's reflecting itself back away before it crosses the line onto you. That would be considered a traditional cure for a position that you can't get yourself out of just by virtue of moving your stuff. Oh, my pictures are all wonky today. There's a guy cooking, and there's poo-poo right on the other side of the wall. 6 inches away! All right, so how are we going to use some crystals? Like I said, we are using crystals kind of like a disco ball. One stream of light hits it. We got all these little dots gently around the room. Crystals do the same thing. So if your bed is in line with the door, I think I've got some of those pictures. So here's a front door straight in line with the back door, just a simple front door, back door, and they've hung a crystal between the two to break up that line. That would be how you would cure using a crystal. There's a little crystal right up there. You could also run a line of red, as long as I got this picture. You could take a line of red and put it above the molding or under the door or make a red mat there, because red stops energy. So I'm going to say energy, you can come in, but you're going to stop. You're not going to slide through that back door. Here's a situation, same thing, where you've got the door in line with the bed and you're like, that's a window there, there's nowhere to go, my closet's here. What am I going to do? You're going to hang a crystal somewhere between the door and the bed, or maybe place it on the nightstand. Or you're going to lift up the bed skirt, put a line of red, put the bed skirt down, and you're going to say, energy, you're going to come in, but you're not going to cross me, because in this example, this person's body part from their head to probably their shoulder or elbow would be vulnerable and be most likely weak. I did a client just in this very example in Tampa recently, and it was their son's room. He was 17 years old and he wasn't home. And I went into the room and I go, what's wrong with your son's left ear? She goes, what? I go, yeah, I think he's got a left ear or left shoulder issue. And she goes, well, he did. He got hit in the head with a baseball on the right side, but it's his left ear that's still giving him problems. I knew he would have a left ear issue because the freeway of energy is coming right in the door and going right across the head of his bed. And I knew it would be his left side affected first. Strange, that's the pattern. So yes, you can use pretty pieces. You don't have to use only a crystal. You can make it work with your aesthetics, which I highly recommend as a landscape architect. I see so many things done in the name of feng shui that are so wonky and cheesy looking. I always consider the design and aesthetics, seeing how we can create a cure. And I think we've already talked about red, stops in the tracks. This is trying to cover the floor this was a vapor emissions problem, a health issue where there was so much moisture coming up through the slab. There's actually a product called Red Guard, and it seals the slab. And it actually is the perfect feng shui cure as well, because we want to stop the water from coming through the slab. So using the color red in different ways. Look at this person in the cubicle being creative. A red sweater. Looks like it's there for a chilly day. It was her feng shui cure to protect her back from the head-on energy or the back-on energy from coming in and hitting her in the back. So everybody thinks it's just there for a chilly day. It's her feng shui cure. So this is, you can put red across the headboard or the windowsill or the behind the blinds of windows that are at your head of your bed to try to stop that energy from coming in and hitting you in the head. Like this particular person, I'd put red behind that headboard if I didn't move that bed, which I wanted to move that bed. Now let's talk about, I've given you your little 10 things to do in a bedroom. I want to talk about that a little bit. So things to consider in your bedroom, just because I really want to get to the, as well as being a feng shui practitioner, I've studied Bao biology, and Bao biology is the healthy home aspects, the contemporary feng shui, off-gassing, vapor emissions, electromagnetic fields, all these current, when the microwave, back when I started feng shui, the microwave oven was the biggest booger in the house. Now, there's so many boogers on top of it, I don't even get down to the microwave oven. Like, I've just given up on microwave. I'm now talking about Wi-Fi routers next to the bed. There are so many things in the house that have now become so much worse than the microwave. It is so interesting in my line of business to see the patterns. 15 years ago, my strange client that I called it, my unfortunate client, was a 26-year-old man with a brain tumor. Very common in my world 15 years ago. I don't see the 26-year-olds with brain tumors anymore because nobody's doing this anymore. You know what I see now, over and over and over? 20 years old with testicular cancer. Oh. I can't tell you how many I've seen. From the minute they're in the strollers, they've got the little iPad there. From the gaming, to the drop it in your lap while you're driving. It's sad how much testicular cancer I have seen lately. I don't see brain tumor anymore. I see testicular cancer. So those are the patterns that I've just over time have seen, the changes in technology and the changes in my strange clients that I call them. Like, what an unusual thing for a 20-year-old man to have, what could possibly be what he ate, drank, was exposed to? Chronic exposure to electromagnetic fields and radio frequencies, which is what we call RF. So electrical fields, electromagnetic fields, radio frequencies, VOCs, geopathic shifts, all these, well, that's not a contemporary thing, that's an earth thing, but all these sort of contemporary things that have come into our world since the traditional moving around of furniture and the agrarian conversation of move up the hill or down. We have to consider every piece of technology and everything we bring into our home. And so Bao biology is the study of the healthy home that covers these more contemporary issues. So let's just go through the top 10 things. Place your bed in a power position up against a solid wall. But guess what? We have to make sure that there's no circuit panel behind it, that there's no poo-poo behind it, that there's no, we have to consider the power position now up against some of our new conveniences that we've added to our home. Makes sense? So you can have the best feng shui position, but if there's a circuit panel on the other side of the wall, you're just exposing, or a smart meter, God help you, on the other side of the wall, you're exposed poorly. So I want to be away from that position. Remove any mirrors that are reflecting you while you are sleeping. That's a traditional thing. When you can see yourself somewhere else in the room, the energy that you are trying to bring back upon you while you're sleeping at night is now going, remember, there's no difference between it or a reflection of it. There's you over there, there's you over there. So the energy, you're getting half the energy at best if you've got one mirror reflecting you. So cover your mirrors. that are reflecting you at night. You can see the door, but don't see yourself if you're using a mirror as a cure. Remove any sharp metal, knives, scissors, axes, guns, ice picks, flatware. I've seen all of these people. So you don't want sharp metal near you where you spend an enormous amount of time. I have seen the pattern, near sharp metal a lot, you get cut. Surgeries happen for the people who have those things near them where they spend a lot amount of time. So somebody says, oh my God, I'm facing my third shoulder surgery. Is there anything you can do? I go, yeah, get that knife out of your nightstand. They're like, how'd you know I have a knife in my nightstand? Or if it's multiple surgeries, I go, get the flatware out from under your bed you're trying to hide from a robber. Multiple knives, multiple surgeries. Seen the pattern.
What about guns?
I've just seen, guns are a symbol, basically, that when you route it all the way back, it's fear. So fear is kid. It's like the trail that these symbols and things in your house take. Sometimes people have guns because they're everywhere they are. They're in not the power position. I just get them in that command position and they're like, oh, okay, I can sleep now. I don't have to feel like I'm, So work on the where you are in space. Remove all incongruent items from your bedroom. The two things allowed to support, the things in your bedroom to support you are passion building, things that support relationship building, and things that support a good night's sleep. You do not have work stuff, workout stuff, hobby stuff, high-tech stuff, television. That's two eyes are looking at the television, they're not looking at each other. It's a distraction to relationship. I've actually closed giant views off of a bedroom because they're looking there and not at each other. Just like in the house, when you walk into the room of the house and then the big back door, if you walk into the master bedroom and the first thing you see is the view and not the bed, propensity for divorce, because the energy is the diarrhea of the master bedroom, So we want the eye to come in like dropping our little breadcrumbs. Oh, look at the inlaid floor, look at the flower arrangement, look at the art, look at the window treatment. Now, oh my God, I'll catch them at the last minute if I have to. And then the view, So if I get 3 or 4 sprinkles around the space before I slide out to the view, then I know I have some energy in there. But if you walk in the bedroom and you miss the bed and you're on view, you've missed it. It doesn't have much energy for the relationship. Remove any running fountains or living plants from the bedroom. We got that, somebody asked me about that. Living plants are, sometimes it's the mold and mildew in the moisture of the soil that can be getting them from an air quality point of view. And sometimes the plant is too yang. It's a living object. It is invigorating the energy, and sometimes it's too much for a good night's sleep. All about balance. I'm here to Goldilocks you. Tell me how you're doing. And you're like, I've slept I've slept great for 20 years in this house. I'm healthy as a horse. I'm like, I don't fix what isn't broken, people. But if you tell me you got a problem, I'll look for it. So it's all about whether this is right for you or not. I need to know a little bit more about you before we know whether it's right or wrong. Remove the ceiling fan. Burr, burr, burr. Or else, what did we learn? Crystals disperse lines. So a ceiling fan is like a giant circle coming straight down, punching you from above as opposed to the door sliding in that way. So hang a crystal from the pull to disperse and break up that bam, 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 right? Down at you. Save the day, Floridians. Save the day for you on that one. Yes?
The ceiling fan, if I have crystals in my room already, is that good enough, or you still have to hang?
Between the fan and the bed. Anywhere between the fan and the bed. Remove anything that's plugged in from the vicinity 24 to 30 inches from the bed. This is showing electrical fields. So I'm going around, does anybody have arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, anything like the muscle-y, achy, blah, blah, thing? I have never run into any arthritic client of mine in the decades that I've been doing this that is not under chronic exposure to electromagnetic fields. Sorry, doctors. I've never run into arthritis people without the electromagnetic fields to go with it. They are sitting in a massage chair, a bed that goes up and down, electric blanket, heating pad. That's the sad part. They've got the ache, and then they put the heating pad plugged in to soothe it. But now I show them with my meter. Holy smokes, you're like lit up, right? From an electrical field point of view. When you're exposed to electrical fields, remember, exposed to is one of our things we're detecting. When you're exposed to electrical fields, your cells start moving. The movement causes friction. The friction causes heat. The heat causes dryness. The dryness causes stiffness. Now you're in that cycle, and then you put it on all night, don't have a chance to get caught up when you sleep. You got the mirror, you know, like all these things are portending you towards illness instead of wellness. So we just sometimes need to get some of the things out of the way so your body can just go, okay, at least I've got zero, like space thing hitting me now for negative. I can start building health. Yeah?
That field, is it cell phones, is it clock radios, is it
Yes.
lamp? I mean, anything.
Electrical fields are, there's electricity in the walls. Even when your lamp is turned off, the thing going all the way up to click, there's a field around it, and I can show you, there's a 2-foot field around your lamp, even though it's off. And if you're sleeping there and you got your arm over on the thing and it's in the field, your body is now conducting electricity just by virtue of being in the field of the thing that's off. Or the electrical in the wall behind you. I help people design from the ground up, and I look at review of plans. I try to get the home runs of the electrical to not be behind the headboard wall, because I don't want electric buzzing right behind your head, too close. The field comes out. Mispaired wires, a lot of times when the homes get renovated, they have a lot of mispaired wires, big fields. Sometimes the electricians are lazy and they ground to the plumbing, because they know the plumbing is eventually going to go down to the ground. They cheat, not to code. Now your whole house is a field because they've just charged the plumbing lines. So the plumbing lines are now hot.
What about the boxes for the TVs, you know, from Comcast? Those are emitting right out in your room?
Routers, yes. Routers, I had a client recently in California. She said, I just can't sleep, I got a pacemaker. My doctor says if I don't get in charge of this pacemaker soon, he's gonna have to redo it, because the pacemaker records every little thing she does. And she said, I haven't had a good reading in so long. If I don't get a good reading in October, I don't wanna have a new pacemaker put in. And so I noticed the router at the foot of her bed, the Comcast Xfinity, whatever it is. And so I said, well, we got to get that out of here. And I said, that's electromagnetic fields, radio frequencies, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, my doctor says, am I exposed to magnets? And I'm like, she goes, I don't think so, you know. And I said, well, it's electromagnetic fields, but I guess magnet. I don't know what pacemaker, I don't know. And so we called Xfinity or whatever it's called. And they said it's going to cost $300 to do this. If you drill, it's $60 per drill. I mean, it was going to be like $600 like that. And she goes, well, my feng shui consultant's here. Don't ever mention feng shui. And so she said, I have a pacemaker. And they're like, what? Just a minute. They put her over to this other thing. They have a list of medical codes. They know it's bad for you. Does the guy who comes in and hooks your router up ever say, are you going to be sitting near here? No. So they have a list of medical codes, and they're like, we'll be right out. Drive out there immediately for free. They move everything. They test everything. Where are you going to be? Let's do your office. Let's make sure it's good. Is there anything else we can do for you? She's like, I don't know, 3 free months of internet. I mean, she's like, they're like, absolutely. They were like, oh, yeah. But did the guy who brought the router in and plugged it, he looked the closest thing and he plugged it in, didn't ask her about her pacemaker or anything else on that medical code? There's a whole department. Does anybody know about that department? No. So then she goes, gets her little thing recorded out, plugged in or whatever they do to check out her pacemaker. There, from that day they moved it. Good reading. She had one little blip. She looked back on her schedule, like September 22nd. She did her little thing, nasty. And then she went back, and it was the day she went to her girlfriend's house and watched a movie, and she knew that the router was right at the TV, right in front of her. and her little pacemaker picked up on it, and that was the one day she had negative of her whole reading. So, scientific results. Xfinity knows. Like, don't, they'll claim ignorance until, whatever. But they have the medical
What
code.
if you're streaming and you have a router, but it's like facing the door? So the
If
energy
you-
is going towards the door.
If your phone is picking up Xfinity Wi-Fi on your Wi-Fi, I'm just picking on Xfinity because most people have it here, but, choose whatever. Xfinity, when you're using their routers, they have their hotspot built into your router. So even if you go online and turn off your Wi-Fi, which I would recommend, I don't have Wi-Fi, you have to call them and say, get that hotspot out of my house. They're using your router as their cell tower. So instead of building cell towers, they're putting all the routers in everybody's houses, and now everybody's connected, and your phone says, you turn off your own data, and it says Xfinity Wi-Fi. Oh, I got free Wi-Fi. It's because they're using your friggin' router in the whole neighborhood, and there's times 10 because you're in the condo thing, and all these overlapping chronic exposure to radio frequencies, microwaves. This is, when people complain, I'm so wired all night I can't sleep, guess what? We have become inside the wire. The wire used to be a category 5, category 6 cable in the wall. Now, wireless has made us inside the wire. We are inside the wire. This is the smoking of the 70s. We are going to say one day, my God, what have we done? It's coming. There's no getting about it. And I do predict, say it right here and now, just as back in the day when we go, oh, let's go to Starbucks, there's a hot spot. I get free Wi-Fi. There will be a day, because the pendulum always swings yin to yang. There will be a day like, I'm going to the cold spot. Nothing getting me right now. There will be cold spot places to run off to just to take a damn break from this boom, 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 pulsing. And the kids are showing the signs. The infertility cases are showing the signs. The testicular cancer at 20, showing the signs. Nobody, la la la, I want my phone, I don't want to know. Yeah, well, another generation, we're going to be like, sorry. So, we're breaking down our DNA strands.
Just one question, when you're talking though about trying to, especially when you sleep, to remove that, if you don't have them near you, but in an
You have to
adjacent
test.
area.
You have to test to know.
So
There
that's
are,
something like that, just to test, and you do.
yeah,
you
and there's a bell biologist in Orlando that I test to show people where it is. We try prudent avoidance. I suggest things to turn off. But I have the gal that like, I got meters. She breaks out the meters, like she's got the, her things look like space age stuff. I've got the little, handheld thing. She will track down, oh, 2 streets over, there's a blah, 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 and and you're like, what? How could that be? Oh, yeah, it is, So I have people that I can connect you with if you're really in a bad place for that. I would recommend hiring a bell biologist, and there are good ones, because the United States headquarters used to be in Clearwater. They've moved to San Antonio, I think, somewhere in Texas. But, so there's a lot of people in Orlando, or in Florida because of that. My favorite one is in Orlando. She travels all over the world.
Do you use some of the mitigators? Like
Um,
what do you think about those?
Depends.
A mitigator.
There are shielding materials that you could wrap your Wi-Fi or your thing in, and it does back off the rating. So there's a Swiss shield. There's a website called lessemf.com that has a bunch of things. You got to know what's good and what's bad, and you also have to know how to use it, because they have a RF shielding paint that, if there's a cell tower outside, you can shield the walls and the windows and all this kind of stuff, but you really have to know what you're doing, because you could create an actual antenna as opposed to a block, so it's tricky. All right, so we're moving anything plugged in around you, get it away from you, low tech yourself. You know, my little wristband would be WWGGD. What would great grandma do? It's, you know, look back at the day when grandma was so grossed out by the, you know, the outhouse coming in. You know, what would great grandma do with that thing, that technology? She'd be like, get that thing out of my house. That's jacking my kids up. You know, like think about the de-teching of things. Only allow things under the bed, nothing under the bed except for a mirror if it is required as a cure, either for the lung cure that I did for my mom, or a mirror face down if you're sleeping above a garage or above a noisy neighbor or something like that. But everything else, we're trying to look for circulation around the bed. I'm just trying to give you these bedroom tips. We're wrapping these up. Avoid sloping ceilings. If a sloping ceiling is coming down towards you, you now have sinus headaches and things like that. A shelf overhead, you will probably have some sort of a impact type, head injury type thing, you know, whatever. Beams over bed, things like that. And then the bathroom, on the other side of the wall, something like that. Don't want yourself in line with the door. Yeah?
If you have beams in your ceiling, in your bedroom, what are you supposed to do?
If there's a beam that goes all the way across, I would usually put a shelf on either side of the like ends of the beam with a shelf with a little mirror face up to push it up off the bed. Sometimes you can hang a crystal to disperse it. I actually had one lady in Los Angeles, she actually hired a mirror guy to just cut a mirror, the entire thing of the beam, and she just put like a mirror,
Upside down?
like, yeah, like it was face up under the entire beam. She's like, I'm not taking a chance, and she mirrored the whole underlayment of the beam. So, I don't know what else I've got here. Oh, don't believe me, try it for 6. So most of the time, every time when I come to people's houses and I make these suggestions, when you do a consultation with me, you get the consultation, but oh, it doesn't end there. While you're making your changes, you keep talking to me about, you text me, I'm out shopping, is this earth element? Is this what you meant by a good symbol for that? So we get it all built, and then we track. We don't just do stuff and, oh, well, whatever, I feng shui. No, we say, did I get that result yet? And then, Karen, it's happening too fast. I've had that. Karen, it's happening not so, I don't notice, So we fine tune you, but if you don't see results in 6 weeks, there's an issue. So people just go, how do I know, feng shui, No, you tell me very something specific that you want. Let's see what we can make happen. And if I don't see direct, like we're heading in that direction by 6 weeks, we gotta really rethink some intention or some stuff that we've changed in the house. Does that make sense? How I work with you? And maybe sometimes it is. We gotta get a biobiologist in here. There's nowhere on your whole lot that I'm outside of the field because of the wires at the back of your property. They're emitting a field throughout your entire, I can't even get to the edge of it to say it's that because I'm getting closer to it. And now I'm out of the field because I'm like, I can't even, wherever I am in the whole lot, I'm in the field. So that's when we have to bring in sort of the professionals and things like that. So does that help you with wellness from like a physical space point of view? I mean, I could go on about every other subject on the planet, what body parts, and I didn't even talk about the Bagua map. As you can see, it's like just getting to the conversation. So I do, I train people to do what I do. If this is a passion of yours, I do full feng shui consultations. I do lectures all over the world or whatever, conferences and things like that. So however I can help you, I'll be glad to help you. And I do, my consultation, I forgot to say, my consultation is normally $3,000 when I fly to you, which is what I do for most people. That's why I don't need a house. I'm on the road anyway, so why not just keep it going? And then, but for a local consultation where I don't fly, it's $897. So that includes the whole, while you're going through the change, see what kind of result we get. If we have to tweak it, it's like, I'm going to get you to that point Z, end of the trail, come heck or high water, we're going to make it happen. And whether we have to go inward with your beliefs whether we have to change your food dynamic, what you're exposing yourself to, cosmetic, to electromagnetic field, to your furniture, to your neighborhood. I mean, just whatever level that we need to address. So, or a 3-hour conversation about your dining room table.
What's local to you? Though you said you're nowhere.
Yeah.
Are you California or are you Florida?
I am in Naples at least until probably March,
Oh.
and then I'm just estimating my house selling sometime this season. But I moved here 2.5 years ago from Southern California. I lived there for.
So when you sleep in hotels or motels, don't you worry about?
They actually have a RF shielding sleeping bag I mean, there are all kinds of things that people use to that are sensitive to it. Some people don't even know, they don't even feel it, and some people are very sensitive. I'm extremely sensitive. An MRI practically kills me. You know, not because I'm like in a pod being like, claustrophobic. I'm like, ah, and everybody else is like, it's an MRI, it's nothing even touching you. I can feel that pulse, really, I'm just extremely sensitive. I can stop a watch on my wrist after 2 hours. I just have a very interesting body field, energetic field. I had a near-death experience, or a death experience I call it, back when I was 23. And ever since then, energy weird. So, Amy and I, we've talked about that before. So did you have a question here?
I did. My daughter has a bedroom above her garage. It was sort of a renovation thing, and she has trouble sleeping. You mentioned maybe putting
a mirror face down under her bed with the intention of deflecting all that yang, moving, toxic fuming stuff away
They don't
from her.
actually put a
yin
car in
sleeping.
there. They just use it for storage. They actually have the car in the driveway. But would the garage still have bad fumes and bad?
Yes, it's, yes, because of the stuff. I mean, people that I had one clientele, speaking of stuff, I had one client in Texas, and they were, remember in the Vietnam War thing or whatever, when they're evacuating people, and the picture of on top of the embassy where they're taking people off in the helicopter, they were those people that got plucked off the top of the embassy. On the film, and so I went to this was my first telephone consultation, and I just asked for the floor plan, and I didn't ask for pictures and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, she goes, I don't care if I get divorced or not, like, I don't care if I stay with him, I don't care if I leave him, I just have no, help me decide. Like, literally, that was her, she's hiring me for that. And so she goes, he sleeps there, I sleep here, whatever, I don't know. And everything she said, it was so conflicted. Everything was conflicted, and there was conflict between them. And so one day, or as I'm doing the consultation, I said, along that whole hallway it says bookcases, and all that hallway it says bookcases, and over there are bookcases. And she goes, oh, well, we were the Vietnam people that got plucked off the top of the embassy. And all of those bookcases you see are filled with books about the Vietnam conflict.
Wow.
And the word conflict and the unresolvedness of that whole war, which wasn't even deemed a war, the energy of that was so pervasive in her life, she couldn't even decide. Everything was so unresolved. I thought it was a perfect, connection between her life and her stuff. And it's all like that for everybody. We just aren't aware of it, so become aware of your stuff and make the connection. And it's almost laughable. Like people go, oh my God, my relationship is in the toilet. And I go to the relationship area of their house, of course there's a bathroom. My husband and I just keep, just such one-upsmanship, and there's the game room in the, it's comical what you find in people's homes when they tell you what the problem is. They're literally telling you the very thing to go look for. So with that in mind, we've got books to sign, and you can sign up for consultations if you want. Oh, Amy, yes?
Can I make a comment too? The first time I had Karen come in feng shui at my home, it's my former home now, it was, I had a specific intention for specific outcomes, and I said, give it everything you got, right? A couple days later, I text her, the ceiling fan fell off the ceiling in that area and shattered a plate glass table, which was a symbol of water, which was the element of the area. And it was, from that point, everything changed. All the intentions came to be. Subsequently, when I moved, I'm like, Karen, you have to come help me with this place. And we also had the huge EMF field in the back of the home. So another thing that helped was she advised us to even move to a different bedroom. I mean, it really, really does change your life in a way that I couldn't have explained it.
True. And sometimes, when you are going from point A to point B, picture a train on its tracks going in the life of with all your current stuff, and now you want to go over there, and it's like chug, 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 chug. And to stop that train and to pick it up and to put it in this trajectory, a little dust gets kicked up in the middle.
It does.
And I handhold people through that time of transition where, they're just like, ah, and I'm like, no, it's all, when you lose your job, I've had people get fired out of the blue or laid off the next day after they've made the request of a new job. And the next day they go, I got fired. I'm going, yay, it's working faster. And they're like, so hang on tight because literally 6 weeks or less, you're gonna see something happen.
Huge,
So we just like to pace it in a more
incredibly positive.
calm pace.
Color. When you do this zoning thing.
The Bagua map, yes, which is kind of like,
How do you approach color? Do you say, oh, you gotta have this color over this way, this one brings wealth, this one does that? Or how do you approach color when you're talking about it?
color is one of the 9 ways that you can change the energy. Like I said, when people read my book, they get a little color crazy, and I'm just pre-saying it now. Don't go painting your house like a circus tent. I say that all the time. So, and I've seen it in real life. They're like, look, and red goes to here, and then it stops in the middle of the wall, and purple goes. I'm like, what? No, color is one of the 9. So you can use it to denote the element, or you can use it as a symbol for that, or the energetic value. But remember, it's all about the Goldilocks theory. So if, people say, I need it, a lot of people hire me and I come to their house and they've got a little water fountain that plugs in, and they got a little piece of lucky bamboo that they bought at Publix, and they got, a rock and a piece of metal, and they're like, here's the 5 elements, go place them. And it's, everything in your environment is some depiction of the 5 elements. If it's made out of paper and cotton, it's a plant material, it would be considered more wood element. Like I said, mirrors equal water, the color black equals water, leather and animal prints equal fire element. Everything in your house, it means something to me. And all I have to do is arrange it in a little pattern. It's just, if you take the time to learn, it's simple. But color, I've seen people paint, their kitchen is now purple because of the prosperity area. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can get it with the 5 elements, you can get it with your symbols, with even the other, which my teacher told me was the most powerful cure. And other means a way that you change your space that might only work for you. For example, I had a client who bought a pair of Oprah Winfrey shoes on an auction. And she said, whenever life got her down, she opened up the closet and she stuck her feet into Oprah's shoes. If Oprah can do it, and it just immediately, she went from downtrodden to if Oprah can do it, they were just a pair of shoes.
Good for her.
That's an other cure. You have attached that meaning to it, and it changes your energy like that. So we can even use an other cure to create that energy force to portend you towards that future. And it can be fun. So many people take it like, oh, it's got to be this bogged down, serious math creating. This book is written very campy, very humorously. It's a laugh while you learn. I wanted people to get to the end of it. That was my goal, to write a feng shui book that people actually read to the end. I couldn't, and I'm desperate to learn this stuff. I could not get to the end of some of these toiling, do I have to wear moo-moo wearing, bobbly earring, crystal ball gazing to be a feng? No, I'm a designer, and I'm choosing to be like, let's get out in the world and create spaces that are aesthetically pleasing and that can work and get you to the future, not just feel good. Feel good is great, but where are you going? I want to get you somewhere to your dream life, better communication with your grandkids, whatever it is, just give me the topics, we'll make it happen. That's just can you tell? Like, Amy, I'm passionate about it. It's what we love
I
to
have a
do.
question. You kept talking about the Hummel in the sand
Yes.
and the future
Uh-huh.
trail in the sand. What are you supposed to do with all those Hummels?
She's still attached. You either give away, donate, sell. Yeah.
Was there any, I never heard what to do with it. Just
I don't care what you do with it, but I don't want it in your sphere of influence. And whether, you feel a lot like I said, the lady was throwing Waterford in her junk thing. She didn't care about the Waterford. It all depends on what it means to you. She kept the little dumb plastic thing. Everybody would say from a money standpoint, she's throwing away the good stuff and keeping the bad stuff. Everything means something. I don't care what it means. I care, is it supporting you? And, I'm inviting you to watch what no thing can really bring you, because it is shocking how out of the blue opportunities come your way. So when I tell people to declutter, I go, write down what you did every day for a feng shui cure. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And then also have another running tally. Wow, a gentleman approached me in the grocery store and asked me for my phone number. I didn't expect that. I wasn't doing anything. You'll start noticing right now you have this environment and you've got this outcome, and you have no idea that the connection. And when you start feng shui and oh, be careful what you wish for. Boom, it's right there. I said just the other day, I said, oh my gosh, when I release this condo, I'm going to Europe. And oh my gosh, it'll be so fun to be in a European house. I love Europe. In a European house. Oh, that just sounds so great to me. Ring, ring, the phone rings. Hi, we're in Naples, and we have a big house in Old Naples that we're trying to sell. We need your help. We need your eyes. Our problem is it's a very European house. So the same day as I'm going European house, I get to go through. This house is brand new, pretty new, a couple years old, so new that it's so European, they didn't even put closets in the bedrooms because they got the armoires. That's a hard sell in Naples. That's a hard sell. It was their dream house, now they've decided to move on. So, but I got to enjoy a dream European house for a day because my energy is right in line with it. And then I'm like, oh, Italian men in Venice. Bing, text. A guy I went out on one date with in 2017 before Hurricane Irma even happened, pinged me. He was a true Italian man from Sorrento. Where does he live? Venice, Florida. Comical, the opportunities that show up. And it was the same day that I'm going, oh my God, Europe, Italian men, I'm telling you, watch what's up here. You're making it happen. We are not connected. There's a consciousness. We're the oneness of the universe. It's all energy. The joke is we're not separate people. It's one energy. So make it a good one, people. It's your life is an illusion. Make it a good one. So I'm here to support you with that. I hope that helps explain that.
Does this book also touch on decluttering? Is that
this book is pretty much the basics of feng shui, and it's all about that Bagua map. I've divided it up. Each chapter is one piece of the Bagua area.
Yes.
Probably not much at all that I've talked about today, but the good basic feng shui book. This one is divided into 4 topics: mind, body, spirit, and environment. And I've exploded the conversation of feng shui because I wanted my second book to be called, this is called Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life. I wanted my second book to be called You Don't Have to Move Anything to Change Your Life. To really get impact on the invisible. This is the stuff, but the invisible, more powerful. I think it shows up. That's fast. I didn't move anything in my house. I'm just dreaming about an Italian man. So this is about the stuff. This one goes a little bit broader, mind, body, spirit, environment. I talk about the food energetics, yin and yang of foods. Why people have cravings. They're swinging back, kind of stuff like that is in here. Radon, off-gassing, VOCs, all that healthy home stuff is in here. Tithing, meditation, all the spiritual stuff is in here. And of course, all the stuff that got edited out of this book got in here. So this is kind of like my personal brain dump that I wanted to give to people who, kept asking me what's up after this book. And since I'm not interested in writing 20 books like Amy is, I just personally just put out that just really as an answer to what's next. And I just wanted to pop open people out of their carpet and furniture and just go, it's everything around you makes an impact. Thank you so much for your time.